Today I wanted to try colouring some felt. So I've got some stiff felt here. It's quite cheap, it's quite light and see-through, and I just want to see how it takes colour because of a project I'm working on has a felt background and it's very stark white, so I just want to kind of break down, soften that a little. These are just cheap watercolours. I'm hoping they're still okay because they've been in a drawer for ages. We will see. I've got some acrylic, again cheap, and some fabric dye. So I have a feeling that the watercolours will give me the effect I'm looking for, but we'll see how each of them look. I have the watercolour, the fabric dye, which has gone quite inky, which I do quite like the look of. I've got the acrylic but with some water added for the right consistency, and the plain acrylic. The look I would like is a bit like sky, so I'm going to use a sponge rather than paintbrush. I don't want to see any thick strokes of paint. So the acrylic, I think, is just going to be too thick. The colour is quite strong. This would work okay if I made sure that there wasn't a lot of paint on the sponge. I'm going to try the acrylic now that's been watered down. That's nice, not the effect I would like, but it is quite a nice inky effect. Now we're going to try the fabric paint. Which actually has gone on quite thickly. Now the watercolour. I'm hoping the watercolour is going to be the one. Ah, that's similar to the fabric paint. That's slightly better. So potentially, if we made sure it was very well mixed, this one might work. We can see this is dried now. This was the watercolour, this was the fabric dye, and these two were the acrylics. I think you could definitely use the acrylics somehow, but it's not the effect that I wanted, and it's also quite rough on the fabric. These two I think are looking like my best bet. I'm surprised it's hardly gone through at all. This is not very expensive felt, so I thought actually it would bleed through a lot more. But I'm going to go with watercolour, and what I've actually done, I've mixed some watercolours here of various strengths, and I'm just going to have a little bit more of a play with the watercolour. Let me show you what the pieces I'm actually working on. I'm a little bit scared to do it because really this kind of thing should have been done before I started work on the piece. My original idea, because the felt is quite thin, is to put a dark coloured felt underneath, and I thought that would shine through enough to just soften the white, but it hasn't, and the more I look at it, And the more I've sewn on my felt pieces, the more I think that this white is just too stark for the picture I'm creating. Hold your breath, and hopefully I won't get paint everywhere. But let's try and soften the white. I'm going to start down here because I know actually this bit on the picture won't show. I am someone, unfortunately, who does sort of rush into these things without fully thinking them through, so I will start a project and then halfway through I thought, it's probably better if I did this a different way. But I still persevere, I still end up with the thing, the project that I want, looking how I want it. Just sometimes I make life hard for myself. What I'm going to do now is just go over it with a wet sponge. So I've just put water on my sponge and I'm just going to squeeze out and rub the colour a little bit so it looks a bit softer. I think it's good. I think it looks quite natural. She says as she just puts a splodge on. There we go. I think we'll leave it there. I may layer it up another time, but I think it's probably best to do it in stages and so I don't overdo it in any particular place. So I'll leave that to dry and show you what it looks like. You can see it's dried quite nicely. There is the odd area that's a little bit blotchy, but I'm not overly worried about that because I've still got more pieces of felt to put on top. But I think it worked really nicely in just breaking up the white. The white was just too stark in the end for what I wanted it for, so I think that works. Watercolour on felt.